Good evening. I would like to welcome you to the Yavapai County District 3 Supervisor Candidate Forum, which is on the November 3rd general election ballot. Our forum is being hosted by the League of Women Voters, Greater Verde Valley, and my name is Mary Chiquin, a member of the League of Women Voters, and your moderator for this forum. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization which envisions a democracy where every person has the desire, the right, the knowledge, and the confidence to participate. In these new times, we do not have a live audience, but Verde Valley TV is live streaming and videotaping the forum. The video will play on Sparklight Channel 1056, Suddenlink Channel 2, and the Verde Valley TV YouTube channel, as well as on social media outlets and websites. The purpose of this forum tonight is for the audience to get to hear from the candidates on why they want to be District 3 Supervisor for Yavapai County. Over the last several weeks, we have solicited and gathered questions via email from the public to present to the candidates. The goal of this forum tonight is fairness, civility, and engagement. Our timekeeper for today's forum is Robin Lowe. Her role is to keep us on time. She has 3 signs: a 1-minute sign, a 30-second sign, and a stop sign. She will raise the 1-minute sign, then the 30-second sign, and then the stop sign to tell you that you need to stop. Should you continue talking, then I get to stop and intervene. We ask 4 things of the candidates: be respectful of each other's points of view, speak your mind freely, do not engage in personal attacks, and do not interrupt one another. Our candidates for Yavapai County District 3 Supervisor in alphabetical order are Randy Garrison and Donna Michaels. The format for this evening's forum is 3 parts. We will begin with opening remarks, and each candidate will have 3 minutes for introductory remarks. Then we move to part 2, which is questions from the community. Candidates will have 2 minutes to address each question, depending on the number of issues to be covered and the time available. We received a number of excellent questions in response to our requests. I invite the community to contact the candidates directly if your questions were not answered as a part of the forum this evening. Finally, we will have closing remarks, and each candidate will have 3 minutes to share final remarks on why they think that he or she can best serve Yavapai County as District 3 Supervisor. We are now ready to begin our statements. The candidates drew numbers at the beginning, so we will begin with the first opening statement from Randy Garrison.
Thank you very much, Mary. Appreciate you and the League allowing us this opportunity to present ourselves and share with the public what we are and what we do and what we believe. So appreciate you giving us this opportunity. It's been, there haven't been many this year, so this is highly regarded. So thank you very much. My name is Randy Garrison. I'm Yavapai County Supervisor for District 3. I am currently the Vice Chair of the Board of Supervisors for this county. I have lived in this community all my life. My wife Debbie of 36 years, and I live here in Cottonwood. We have 3 businesses in Old Town. Our daughter Shelby lives with us. She's special needs and will be with us forever, but we appreciate her nonetheless. My family came here in the 1870s. I'm the 5th generation of my family to call Cottonwood home and lived in this Verde Valley, all over this Verde Valley actually. I've served for 19 years as a public servant directly as an elected official. But before that, I'll go back, tell a little history of my family. My aunt, my great aunt, was the first woman elected in Yavapai County in the state of Arizona and the 2nd woman elected in the United States. She represented us as a legislator at the state level, and this was before the 13th Amendment.
Wow.
And so that was quite a feat. My great-grandfather is regarded as the father of Cottonwood. He was very instrumental in a lot of the ranches, a lot of the historical sites that currently exist in Sedona and in the Verde Valley come into fruition. He was quite an entrepreneur and was one of the people that homesteaded Old Town. So that's where our offices are. We still have a lot of holdings in that area. My grandfather was a supervisor for the county. My dad was mayor and councilman for the city of Cottonwood, and I have served as a Mingus Union High School school board member. I've served as a Cottonwood Oak Creek school board member for about a decade. I've served on the city council of Cottonwood. I left that job to take on this job, and I've been serving this position for 4 years, and I would appreciate another 4 years to continue the work that I've been doing.
Wonderful. Thank you, Randy.
Thank you.
Donna.
Well, thank you. We'll get into some of the detail of what makes me qualified for this position as we begin to enter the discussion. But I think it's really a wonderful opportunity for me to say, first of all, of course, thank you for permitting me to be here this evening. The League of Women Voters of the Greater Verde Valley has a long history of civic engagement, and I'm honored to be a part of that this evening. You know, we have something happening in 2020 that might surprise some, but for those of us who are paying attention, we recognize that there's actually a bipartisan agreement that is really quite powerful in its implications. And that simply is that everyone wants more women to seek office and to hold office. And I think that's especially powerful in the 100-year anniversary of the women's right to vote. And so I'm especially honored for that opportunity this evening. You know, we have 100 women who serve in the U.S. House of Representatives and 25 in the Senate. And of course, Arizona has a long history of women being sent to office, public office. So if I'm elected, I will be the first female Board of Supervisors in the Verde Valley, and for that reason I'm especially grateful for all those extraordinary women, the suffragettes, who endured so much and so much hardship to be able to ensure that I have not only the right to vote, but the right to seek office. And I'm deeply indebted to those women. In fact, I've dedicated my campaign, the Michaels team campaign, to their passion, to their commitment, and to their perseverance in seeking what we all now assume as a right, and that's the right to exercise our vote, which I hope all of you will do, if not on the early ballot, then by November 3rd. I look forward to our discussion, and I'm delighted to be here this evening to talk with all of you about what our major issues are. But I think it's important for you to know that I'm running because people have said to me they want a representative who will engage with them, who will listen, who will join them in protecting the great legacy that we have here of rural, of small town character. And I'm committed to doing just that. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. And just so you're prepared, you'll get the first question, okay? And as a reminder, these questions are 2 minutes.
Thank you.
And the question is, what are two of the most important issues facing the Verde Valley and Yavapai County? Why? And how can the Board of Supervisors best address these issues?
Well, that's a very good question. I think everything today has to be looked through the lens of these uncertain times that we find ourselves in as a result, really, of this pandemic that is still with us and that we are still feeling the impact from. And so, in my opinion, we have to look at what are the constituent services that are going to meet our residents' needs while they weather this virus. Whether it's their place of employment, whether it's actually the business that they own, whether it's their personal health, whether it's how we manage to sustain through any supply chain interruptions, self-reliant Verde Valley. So I think it's all eyes on that particular need and the businesses that are affected because of that. I think we have a great opportunity also during this challenging time to look at what are the economic engines that we can renew, find, encourage, partner, and support so that we not only manage to persist during these challenging times, but thrive into the future.
Thank you. Randy.
Can you repeat the question, please?
I can. What are two of the most important issues facing the Verde Valley and Yavapai County? Why? And how can the Board of Supervisors best address these issues?
Well, I appreciate this question, and there's a lot of misperceptions out there about what the board actually has control over and what we don't. We have a lot of issues in the Verde Valley. We have a lot of issues in this county. Part of those issues is development. We have been discovered. People are continuing to come here. You can't drive down the street without seeing California license plates everywhere. That state is on fire. They're coming here, and mostly because we have so much open space available to us. So traffic is probably the #1 issue that I've spent probably the bulk of my time this last 4 years working on, and trying to find success and opportunities to improve. We only have 3 main arteries throughout this entire valley in which to move people around, and then we have to connect all those with county roads and city roads, and so we got to figure out a better way to reduce that impact, because we have a lot of people here. Sedona has about 4 million tourists a year alone, which impacts every community in this Verde Valley. The other issue that I think we can actually address, and I've been working very hard on, is workforce housing. The last workforce housing study that was put out, and VV we're in the middle of doing another one right now, shows about an 1,800 home deficit in the Verde Valley for workforce housing. People can't afford to live here. They can't afford houses. Airbnb has decimated our housing, available housing. So we have to figure out a way to house the people that live here and provide the services and support for the businesses that exist today and the people that want to come here. So those are the 2 items I've been working on the most. But water and you know, all the infrastructure issues that we have before us are also concerns.
Great, thank you. So Randy, you're up on this next one.
Okay.
What does the Yavapai County Comprehensive Plan say about sustainability? If elected, what programs or policies would you support to make our region more sustainable, socially, economically, and environmentally?
So the comprehensive plan, you know, there's another misnomer. The comprehensive plan is really about how do we want to see this county develop, where do we want to see development, and how do we do that and keep our county areas rural. We have communities. The bulk of the communities in this district are actually incorporated, and so, you know, when you incorporate, you make your own rules, you make your own regulations, and you determine through your council and your elected officials how you want that area to develop. The county doesn't do that. We are rural. If you get to the size of, like, some of the communities in this district, specifically the village of Oak Creek is one of those communities that have reached a size where they really have to take a serious look at whether they want to incorporate or not. That's their charge, is to figure out sustainability. Our charge is to provide services to the people that live here in the rural areas and continue to make this place rural and stay providing the health, the safety, and the you know, all the different services we do, so that people feel comfortable being here. They have the lifestyle they want, and we utilize the open space to as much of a benefit as possible without impeding on people's ability to live in the manner they choose.
Thank you. Donna.
Yeah, that's a really important question, especially now because we have been more than discovered. We are truly an oasis, not only because of the fires that are tragically ruining lives and homes in California and Oregon and Washington, and my heart goes out to all of those residents. We care very much about preventing that here, and so fire evacuation and planning is going to be an important part of whatever we do in the future to address that. Our community plans are key. They are fundamental to describing and defining who you say you are as a community and a citizen in a particular community. And the Yavapai County Comprehensive Plan must reflect that. I feel very strongly that each community has a right to create its own sense of place, and the supervisor's job is to protect it and whether it's through looking at how we provide constituent services, as I mentioned in my opening remarks, with health and safety, or economically with encouraging robust economies in regenerative businesses such as our small cattle ranchers do, and our wonderful produce out in the middle Verde area with 600 acres of riparian land for produce, or environmentally where we're good stewards. Those things must be addressed, and a supervisor must make sure that they're representing their constituents in all three of those areas through a plan and through plans that are adopted as part of the comprehensive plan.
Thank you. The next question. Yavapai County is about to begin work updating the county's comprehensive plan that guides development decisions in unincorporated areas. How do both local vision statements and local community plans relate to updating the Yavapai County comprehensive plan?
Well, that's another good question, and they simply are put, they're key. They drive the train of the county plan, in my opinion. Each community, as I've said, has its right to create its own sense of place. And a community comprehensive plan or a county comprehensive plan should reflect that. And each community's plan should be a variable of equal weight and its vision statement for our unincorporated areas in every development decision regionally, frankly, so that it is not indexed, that it's not appendixed, but rather a meaningful and weighted variable in the decision-making equation and review process of every development that comes before the Board of Supervisors.
Thank you. Would you like me to repeat?
Yes, please.
Okay. Yavapai County is about to begin work updating the county's comprehensive plan that guides development decisions in unincorporated areas. How do both local vision statements and local community plans relate to updating of the Yavapai County comprehensive plan?
Thank you. That's that's another one of these, and we touched on that with the sustainability. I don't know really what the community plans have to do with sustainability, but nonetheless, we have a comprehensive plan. It's how we lay out how we want development to handle and be handled throughout the county. And unfortunately, as a county, we deal with rural areas. We don't deal with the urban areas. And so when we make a decision on how land should be used, how things should be done, and how services are provided, we have to look at the entire county as one entity. We don't look at the west side different than the east side, the south end of the county any different than the north end of the county. So when we get to the community plans, those become very important. Here in the Verde Valley, we have a Verde Valley Regional Land Use Plan that we're working currently on updating. We also have a Cornville Community Plan. I've been working with them and asking them to update that plan for almost a year now. We're working on updating the plan for the village of Oak Creek. That's moving forward. Verde Village doesn't really need a plan because they're in outskirts of the city of Cottonwood. The community plans, we also have the Red Rock Scenic District that has its own community plan. They're very important, but they all have to align and they all have to share a vision. The community plans in the past were way too specific. They talked about water use, they talked about land use in specific areas where they wanted commercial, where they wanted their low density, where they wanted their high density. So we need to bring those back to vision statements. The county had removed that under threat of a lawsuit almost a decade ago, and so we were under a moratorium not to provide support to update those plans. I was successful this year in bringing that back to the board. We have removed that moratorium, and now we're moving forward providing the resources to our communities to update those plans. And I look forward to them being updated.
Great, thank you. Randy, you're up next.
Okay.
What is your definition of smart growth as it applies to future master plan developments in unincorporated Yavapai County? Please be as specific as possible.
Smart growth. So, smart growth is one of those terms that's difficult. I think, here in the Verde Valley, we have 80% of the land in the Verde Valley is public space. That transfers over to the county pretty well as well. We have 13% public land, private land, I mean. We have about 14% estate trust land that at some point in time will be traded and developed, but currently it's public land, and the rest is all forest. So when we have pieces of land, and here in the Verde Valley, those large pieces are becoming far and few between, it becomes all the more important that what we do with that land allows us to continue to prosper as a community, both economically and deal with the hardships and the issues we have. Workforce housing is one of those. But we also have to make sure that what we do with that land respects our environment, it respects our resources, and it respects the area that is in. Rojo Grande is a great example of that. It's a very precious piece of land. Spring Creek out here is a very precious piece of land. They've got resources on site. They're very large tracts. We have the ability to make mistakes, and that will be gone forever, or we can work with the developer, work with the community that butts up against, and make sure that the product they bring in offers solutions to our concerns and opportunities for the people that live here, instead of creating another problem down the road. So, thank you.
Thank you. Donna.
Let me be very clear. Smart growth cannot happen without good planning. And our community plans are what drives good planning. I disagree with my opponent when he says they're too specific, these community plans have passed. I would say that the folks that I've talked with feel strongly about retaining their small town character, their sense of rural, their legacy of ranching, cattle or otherwise, and that is important to be included, again, not as an index, but as the driving variable in any decision-making outcome related to smart growth. It's why we haven't had smart growth in some cases. We need to be good stewards. And stewardship can happen when we have a document that we can rely upon and refer to, whether it's about housing, attainable or otherwise, or our precious and diminishing resources.
Thank you. Okay, Donna. What percentage in county property tax increase per year do you believe is reasonable? And for what purposes would you support an increase?
Well, really good question these days. And I certainly do not support an 18% primary property tax. Again, and I think I said it, and let me repeat it from my opening remarks, we live in an uncertain time because of an unexpected pandemic that we find ourselves in. And everything that we look at, tax rates of all sorts, budgets of all sorts, have to be looked at through the lens of the economic impact that we are experiencing right now. You know, our county manager has told us that we've already lost $6 million to date, and that number will likely grow. So we're not certain of where we're headed with the economy. And so tax rate increases of any sort, anywhere, I think should be seriously reconsidered for the benefit of all of those who are desperately trying to find new work, keep their business open, stay in their homes with the mortgage payments that are becoming difficult because perhaps they've lost their job as a result of our COVID experience here. We know that, according to the Wall Street Journal, 50% of businesses in this country today, small businesses, are at risk of closing their doors permanently. So any tax rate increase of any sort is something I would look very closely at and probably not be in favor of unless it was a health and safety issue.
Thank you. Randy?
Interesting. Yeah, can you repeat that again?
Please. What percentage in county property tax increase per year do you believe is reasonable? And for what purposes would you support an increase?
So reasonable for me would be no increases every year. That would be reasonable for me, but that's not the reality of the day. This county is conservative beyond means. We're cheap would be a better representation of how we make our budgets. The tax rate is a response to budget, not vice versa. We don't set a tax rate and then go out and spend the money. We go out and figure out how we need to provide the resources that we do, expand if we have to expand those resources or modify them when we can't afford to do so, and then the tax rate is set according to that. We keep getting this number thrown out. 18% increase is just, it's unconscionable that we continue to be plagued with bad information. It was a 18% increase on the county's portion, which is 17% of your overall taxes that you get charged when you see your tax bill. It equated out to a 3% increase. The tax rate today is no different than the tax rate that you paid in 2015. Name another thing that hasn't gone up in 5 years. And just this year, our last budget, in spite of what is being claimed as a deficit, which I haven't seen that number yet. We're actually sitting really flush as a county. We actually were able to provide millions of dollars of additional health care and health services, as well as raises for our employees so that they can help get through this difficult time, provide extra services for our communities, and we were able to lower our tax rate 11 cents on top of doing all that. So the county is in good position. It's because we've been very conservative on how we make the budget, and so I'm happy with where our budget is. I don't ever want to see a tax increase, but at the end of the day, we have to do what we do to make sure we compay our bills.
Thank you. Randy, the next question is yours. Why do you support or oppose construction of a new county jail? Could building costs have been reduced? If so, how or what could have been cut?
Well, we're still in the middle of designing it, so the how and what could be cut is up for debate. Once again, we don't do anything Cadillac style. We do bare bones around here. I don't know that we could have done much other than build the facility that we're having to build. Our sheriff has been begging for a jail for well over 5 years. This has been a study that's been ongoing in this county for 20 years. We were actually mandated by the federal government to close down the facilities in Prescott because of the shape they were in. So now we built the facility in Camp Verde 20 years ago. That is now woefully undersized, and our sheriff has done an amazing job of reducing the people that are in jails, our early release programs. The county court system has been great at providing services that keep people out of jail, and that's what the jail or the criminal justice system over in Prescott is all about. It's bringing the services to the people that need it the most, which is the community of Prescott. They're 60% of our customers, if you want to call that, in our services. And to have to ship them all the way over here, whether it's by us or by the individual police departments in those areas, and deal with them here, it's costing this county over $2 million a year just to bus people back and forth to Prescott, where the services should be provided. We've done a great job of setting up behavioral and mental health services here. We've done a great job of setting up medical services here. We have the courts here, and there's no reason why the people in Prescott shouldn't have the same services available to them and the people that provide public safety in their areas as well. So I fully support the path that we're on, and I think we're going to be very successful in helping the public.
Great, thank you.
There's a lot to talk about there. And I have to tell you that it's very important for our viewers to understand this document, which is called Truth in Taxation. And it's a notice of tax increases. And I would direct your eyes to that red underscore here, where Yavapai County, when they were in the position of proposing, it's now been accepted, an increase in primary property tax of 18%. It was about $8,500,000. So it's a 18% increase, period. That's on your county records, and it's important to make sure that if there is confusion about tax rates and tax levies and whether there's an increase or a decrease, we can talk about that, but it's incredibly important to know what the accurate information is, and an 18% increase in your primary property tax is exactly that. The residents of Prescott have voted it not once but twice down. And the reason that they have is because though it was planned 20 years ago, and though there are needs for improving the facility, there's no question of that, they do not want it now, 20 years after growth, in the middle of their community where it was not 20 years ago. And they're concerned about that. Our diversion programs are magnificent, and I applaud our county Sheriff Masher for creating this paradigm shift. We need diversion programs. What we don't need are more jail cell beds for $65 million.
Thank you. The next question. Do you support or oppose Verde Connect, and why? What is your approach to managing traffic issues in the Verde Valley and Yavapai County?
I do oppose the Verde Connect. I oppose it for a number of reasons that 2 minutes won't allow me to cover, but the public process is one of them. The Yavapai Apache Nation is opposed to it. The town of Camp Verde is opposed to it. They have a resolution on the books. Jerome has come out with an opposition statement to it. More importantly, the community most affected by it, Middle Verde, is opposed to it. Again, I said earlier, and I'll say it again, everything we look at by way of expenditure in today's environment because of the pandemic should be looked at very carefully about going forward. And a bridge for a $25 million coupon for an unknown amount to attach roads to either end of that bridge during these economic times is unthinkable, unwanted, and it will not mitigate the traffic issues that need to be mitigated, such as the important maintenance needs that we have on Cornville Road, perhaps those very unpopular roundabouts that we none like to mention, but perhaps that would be a less expensive way to mitigate some of the traffic issues that we do presently have, and that's going to continue, absolutely, Mary. But I will tell you that a road to nowhere is not an answer, it's a problem. And I hope we'll get it resolved.
Thank you. Randy?
Please ask the question again.
Sure.
And I hate to do this.
That's fine.
These answers keep going sideways, and I just want to make sure I get the right question.
I don't mind saying it again at all. Do you support or oppose Verde Connect, and why? What is your approach to managing traffic issues in the Verde Valley and Yavapai County?
I absolutely back the Verde Connect project, and because it's needed. It's been needed. It's a historical need for this community. When I took this position, one of the issues, as I mentioned earlier, is traffic. Everything around this valley, any impact in one area of this Verde Valley impacts every other area, and traffic has been a huge concern. So we've really attacked how to fix these concerns, how to bring better opportunity, how to move people around safer and more effectively, because they're not necessarily working where they live anymore. And so they have to travel our roads, and when they're packed with tourists and our people that aren't working, as well as everybody trying to get back and forth from where they're working, it makes it very difficult. So, you know, we looked at what was available. So we started looking at all the reports. Camp Verde has had this project in their general plan for 30 years. 30 years that council over there has voted for this project to be implemented. ADOT has been doing regional traffic studies of the entire Verde Valley for every 5 years for 20 years. This project has been in that plan every time. So when I looking at how we're going to fix traffic issues, we look at the opportunities that are out there, the ones that are most desired, and we have attacked all of those, and I've been very successful. Cornville Road was brought up as a traffic concern. We were successful in going out and getting $4.6 million on highway safety improvement funds to fix Cornville Road, and we'll be doing that soon. We were successful in getting $25 million from the federal government. We were only one of 93, I believe, in the entire United States to get this funding, only one of 12 to get the whole $25 million, and it's because they saw the need and we had the documentation to prove this was a valuable road for the residents of the Verde Valley.
Thank you. Okay, Randy?
Yes, ma'am.
People living in the unincorporated areas of the county must rely on county supervisors to support the vision of the local community concerning increased development and rezoning. An example, during the past year, a plan came before the Village of Oak Creek on which residents expressed overwhelming disapproval. The plan was still approved by the Board of Supervisors. What commitment will you make to support the views of local residents concerning decisions that could greatly affect their community character and quality of life?
So I'm going to take exception with the overwhelming, because I can tell you it wasn't overwhelming. There was grand concern about it, but there was, in my opinion, at least the people I talked to, there was just as many people supporting good development on that corner and not unprotected growth on that corner as there were opposing a hotel to be on that corner. And the resolution we came up with the developer and the land use for that property gave some fairly strict restrictions on what they could do, and I think it was a win-win for the communities and the property owner. But that gets back to the community development plans or the community plans. It really is very important that each community has the ability to speak for itself, and when you don't have a plan, or at least you don't have an updated plan, you don't have anything for us to rely on. You don't have anything for the developer that wants to move in that area to rely on either. So it's very important that we allow the communities to kind of gain a foothold in what they see and what they want versus what they don't want, and then that gives us the ability to speak for them or help them find that development, because the land is going to develop sooner or later. So let's get it done in a manner that's beneficial and is also respectful of our environment, respectful of our open space, respectful of our resources, but still provides the developer the ability to use that land in a meaningful manner and provides a benefit by bringing more people in the community without causing a lot more impact than we necessarily need.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Would you like me to repeat the question? Are you good?
I think I can tell you what I'll do as a supervisor, and it's very clear what I will do. I will listen to you. You are the ones that create, as I have said before, your own sense of place, whether it's in a vision statement or a community plan dated in the process of being updated or revamped entirely. My job is to make sure you have a community plan that's truly yours and that it changes over time based on your vision, not my vision. I work for you. And so here's what I'll do as your supervisor. I'll make sure when there's opposition that we meet until all of that opposition is understood and that solutions are reached or problems are at least mitigated. That's my commitment to you as supervisor, and one that I intend to fulfill. Even if a plan had, and 20 years ago, as my opponent mentioned, a road, I would want, as your supervisor, to listen to you when you tell me that, you know, we had this in our plan 20 years ago, but we don't want it now. I would defer to what you want now. A planning document is a living document. It's a roadmap, and it should change over time, but it shouldn't change as a result of my wishes. It should change as a result of your vision and wishes. Thank you.
Okay. Next question. What role does the Board of Supervisors have in matters of public health, such as COVID-19? As a county supervisor, what steps would you take to protect the residents, such as temporary restrictions on tourists or a mandate for masks in public places?
It's a very good question, and it's important, and frankly, I think that question is going to stay with us for a while. I was on the record early part of July, maybe the end of June. I was very disappointed that the Board of Supervisors chairman made the decision, given the unilateral power he was given by the rest of the board, to frankly kick the can down the road for local entities in unincorporated areas to make the decision. Look, in our county documents throughout, we talk about protecting the health and safety of residents. And so while I might be unpopular for a little while, because nobody likes wearing a mask, I don't like wearing them either. Here's what we know without a doubt. Masks have the opportunity and the ability to reduce the chance of exposure and to keep those who are most vulnerable, who have comorbidity issues, safe. And they also send, and I think this is so important, especially as we're beginning to emerge from the most scary of times, and we hope we don't go back into it. But with the numbers going down, we still need to show that we are a civil society, that I care about you, and I show that by wearing a mask. I have no idea what issues you might have health-wise, but you sure know when you see me coming with a mask on that I respect you may have a need, and that's what a civil society does.
Thank you. Okay, Randy, what role does the Board of Supervisors have in matters of public health, such as COVID-19? As a county supervisor, what steps would you take to protect residents, such as temporary restrictions on tourists or a mandate for masks in public places?
That's a great question, and it kind of gets down to one of the core roles of the county government is we have the health department. We provide health services for our residents. The Verde Valley is a very high elderly population. Health care here and access to those resources is extremely important. And as a supervisor, I can share that I've been very successful in bringing more resources to our Verde Valley and bringing money in to provide rapid testing, to provide blitz testing. Right now we're going around doing flu tests. It's this flu season. Please go out and get your flu shot. It's very important this year. Everything we do right now revolves around health, whether we like it or not. But our board back in March gave executive power to our chairman to make decisions on all things COVID related, just like it's a pandemic, it's an emergency, but just like any fire or anything else we do. And that was done because we had to have efficiency in signing off on all the federal grants and federal monies and state monies that would be coming in to our health system and to the county to provide those services. So we have always, from day one, asked people to, I've got my mask right here, wear a mask, stay home whenever possible. If you can't stay home, physically distance, don't socially separate yourself from others, but physically distance. If you can't do that, then wear a mask. It's not for you, it's for everybody around you. Be respectful of those around you, but at some point we have to move on, and we have to take care of ourselves, and we have to take that responsibility. And the communities that were in our area have the ability to create stricter restrictions if that's what they want to do. But overall, we're just going to continue to push the message of being respectful, being cautious whenever possible, and take care of your health. And if you need services, we're here to help you provide those for yourself.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Cities, towns, and the county have a tradition of working together in such endeavors as the Verde Valley Regional Economic Organization, VV-RIO, the Northern Arizona Council of Governments, NACOG, and the Arizona League of Cities and Towns, just to cite a few examples. Do you see a shared vision for the Verde Valley and Yavapai County? And if so, please describe that shared vision.
A shared vision. So I'm not quite sure what that means. So I'm a member of NACOG. I've been on the Northern Arizona Council of Governments for well over 10 years. I'm on the CSA, the County Supervisor Association. Matter of fact, I'm the chair of the Medium County Caucus, and I'm our legislative liaison, so I'm the one that goes down and fights for legislation to help fix some of the concerns that we have in our communities. I also I work very closely with VV-RIO. We're actually working on a joint study right now to deal with workforce housing issues, and I run a weekly show. We do a Zoom meeting. You participate. Thank you very much for that. We host up to 72 people on this weekly call. It's every Monday. We started those back in March. We were having 3 a week. Now we're down to 1 a week. We have all the mayors and managers from all over the Verde Valley. We have all the fire districts and fire departments throughout the Verde Valley. We have all the police agencies as well as the sheriff. We have all of our schools. We have all of our health hospitals, our clinics. We have our oh God, how many other people are in this? It's a very large group. Anyway, we have those meetings, and it's worked out as basically a great way to collaborate, share information, share concerns, make sure that everybody has the most current information available. We also have our health director and our clinic director on that call, and it's been very meaningful in how we work together, which this Verde Valley has a great job, or done a great job of working together. We're very collaborative on this side of the hill, and this gives us another another opportunity to share our concerns, hear what other people are doing, try and get rid of bad information, try and push forward and share good information and keep everybody current. And I would like to see that continue, and I believe that will continue. We already have other groups that meet on a quarterly basis anyway, but it's been very impactful to the communities, and I think they've realized a gain from having those, and I appreciate being part of that discussion.
Great, thank you. Donna.
So, your question was whether we should have a shared vision, and how do we accomplish that, if I understand correctly. And you cited 3 organizations, and all of them wonderful. I've come before VV Rio, worked with NACOG in the past, and certainly am involved with the League of Cities, as a matter of fact, on other matters, historically and presently. And we need more of that. So what we have to have is to create an authentic shared vision for the health of our Verde Valley, frankly for the health of the region and the state. Our partnerships. We have to have partnerships. We have to understand what our shared vision is, whether it relates to water. And I want to pause on that for just a moment, if I may, because we have had no voice to speak of that's been effective in matters of water. And in development matters, for example, it's stated repeatedly that it's outside the purview of our Board of Supervisors. We have a wonderful opportunity to look at that again and collaborate with folks in Prescott and all across our region and state, and wonder aloud with one another how we can partner on water to perhaps even move into a strategic planning process that could be implemented so that we could be the true stewards of our diminishing resources that we have here in Yavapai County. So that's a huge issue, and I think a rural management area that provides an opportunity for an independent water authority to help us make decisions through these partnerships, Mary, that you mentioned, and many more, would be one example we could use just on the issue of water alone, but we must do it through every constituent service that a Board of Supervisor is responsible for.
Great, thank you. Okay. We have seen a growing trend at the state level to disempower local and county governments regarding things like short-term rentals, cell towers, and more. Yep. What do you feel is the best way to handle this going forward?
Very good question. You know, these challenges are going to be with us for the foreseeable future. One of the reasons that I'm running for office is to reclaim our local voice in decision making. I think that applies in the legislature as well, Mary. We have to look at how we address matters of water, as I was just talking about, through the legislature, how we regain our local voice in development matters, and I've already outlined that as a potential, working with communities to update their community plans or their vision statements and make sure that they're followed in the Board of Supervisor function. And so those are 2 obvious ways. I think also in health services, we have to understand how we can collaborate regionally to make sure that we are being sensitive to our more vulnerable population. Some of us are already fitting in that demographic, and I will tell you that we can do all of these things, but to do them, we have to have a supervisor who's willing to listen, to engage with the constituency, and to collaborate across not only District 3, but across Yavapai County and the state, so that we can affect change in the legislature or locally, wherever we need to, in order to ensure that we in fact have voice on all matters that affect our daily lives. I'm all for that. It's why I'm running. Thank you.
Thank you. Randy. We have seen a growing trend at the state level to disempower local and county governments regarding things like short-term rentals, cellular towers, and more. What do you feel is the best way to handle this going forward?
So, great question. It gets back to the role of a supervisor and the role of a county. The counties don't make rules and regulations. The state and the federal government does. It's our job, and my job as a supervisor, to go out into the communities and hear their concerns, find out what needs to be done to address that concern, and then go down to the state and work with our legislature to change those rules. And once again, I'm the legislative liaison for the county. Last year, we were very successful in pushing forward 5 bills that came from us, and 4 of those directly impacted the Verde Valley. There was only 8 that CSA, our County Supervisors Association, decided to take up as a lobbying effort to our state to push forward with, and 5 of those were ours. So we've been very successful in getting the legislature to hear and understand our concerns. Airbnb is one of those issues. The state came in and decided that they didn't want to have any disparity between communities. They wanted to take all that control away. We're working very hard to find ways to bring a little bit of that control back to our communities, because for the Verde Valley, unlike a lot of other areas of the state, it has been absolutely devastating to our housing availability and our workforce. Another issue is we have a high need for transit. Transit would be a great way to help us alleviate some of our traffic concerns, so we're working very hard right now on creating a bed tax for the unincorporated areas of our county. Currently, cities and towns can have a bed tax, but counties can't. If we implement that bed tax, it will be used as a funding resource to provide transit throughout the Verde Valley as well as the county. So I think it's very important that we continue to work with our legislators. We work with our congressmen. There's another 4 people that are on our weekly call as well. We have the congressman participating in those discussions. But we have to tell them what our issue is, sell it in a way that's meaningful to them and allows them to take it to their constituents, change that rule and bring it back so that we can actually implement it in the communities and make an opportunity out of a problem.
Great, thank you. Okay, Randy. The cost of climate disasters far outweighs the cost of preparing for climate change. Climate disaster includes fire danger, mega drought affecting food growth, hotter temperatures, heat island effects, heat-related deaths, drops in rangeland productivity by 80%, and now mosquitoes present every year. How will your leadership champion solutions for climate crisis in our communities? What programs are you working on or proposing to address community needs in relation to climate that can be implemented? And how will you encourage and engage residents to reduce consumption of materials and energy?
So it's not really strictly a duty of the county to deal with climate change. Climate change is something that's happening. We all have a role in it, individually as well as communities, as well as the county, the state, and the federal government, as well as everybody else that in this world. But it's not a duty of the board to pursue that. We don't have a climate change department, but we do have resources, and the resources are very important. But once again, we have 87% of the land in the Verde Valley is public space. It's forest. When we have a fire here, and we've had 70 this year alone in the Verde Valley, it's devastating to not only the housing, but the traffic and moving people around, as well as the air. I mean, look up in the sky these last 3 weeks, and you can barely see the mountains. So we've had so much of it coming in from California. I'm on the Verde Front. I'm the co-chair along with Tim Marilinski on Verde Front, and we're dealing with the resource of the Verde Valley or Verde River, as well as figuring out how to manage that resource, how to make sure that things that we do provide for a long-term continuing of having a flowing river. As you know, the development and the drilling that's happening in the Prescott area is probably going to dry up the top 25 miles of the river, and we're losing that, and we will continue to lose it. So we have to do what we can to keep the water flowing on this side of the river. And so I'm in lots of different groups. We're working with our legislators to address the issues of how do we keep our forests thin, how do we protect the public space, how do we continue to protect the water and the resources in the Verde Valley, and yet still manage to deal with the growth and the populations that live here and have lived here. So it's a very large issue, and there's no quick solutions, but we're constantly going to be working away at trying to find easy local solutions.
Great, thank you. Donna.
So most people in Arizona, actually, by a recent poll, are very concerned about climate change and want action. And just like water issues, though we have no voice, and some would say by choice, on water matters locally, we could change that with the will of the people and a supervisor who will advocate for it. And though there were bills introduced, none passed as they related to the important water issues affecting us in Yavapai County. I'll change that. I'll work hard to change that in a collaborative model with partners, just like with our climate crisis. And you said it right, it is a crisis. And we need to admit to the science and recognize that working with health officials, NAU, tribal representatives, just like we have with the Northern Arizona Climate Change Organization, it's time that we look at what the significant impacts, and you mentioned some of them, Mary, with fire and drought and rangeland production being decreased. We need to bring all those stakeholders together. We need to work in a collaborative model so that we have milestones, measurable, evidence-based steps that can assure that we just don't stand here and say, it's outside of our purview, we can't do anything about it. Then get it inside of our purview. We all have a stake in taking care of our county and our state and our lives and well-being. Thank you.
Before we go on, can we go back and readdress that? I keep hearing a common theme come across in these questions, and I really want to address it. It's another statement of duties and roles, and I think it's just confusing to the public to continue to hear it.
Okay, so let me do this then. Let me add a question. We have the time. Donna, you're up next on the questions.
Okay.
So what do you see is the role and duty and responsibility of a county supervisor?
Well, it's a multifaceted job. Apart from what you might say, some of the daily activities of setting tax rates and county budgets and making final decisions on development matters, planning and zoning, health and safety, always, of course. And in every one of those themes, it is all about constituency services. But the primary role, in my opinion, and I've said it throughout the evening, is to listen, to work for the constituents, the residents who voted you in, to advocate for their vision, their sense of community in each of the different communities in which they live. My job is to make sure that you thrive where you live in all of the ways that are important to do that, whether they're community plans, whether it's making sure that partnerships with state or federal or other local entities or statewide entities deliver, whether it's fire protection, whether it's road maintenance, whether it's health care for all, whether it's inviting new, robust, innovative economies up here, whether it's encouraging our Verde Valley's self-reliant vision to grow by advocating for the robust economies or educational opportunities in partnerships to provide workforce development, for example, so that we can have attainable housing up here. All of those things are many-faceted that a Board of Supervisor must do, but can only and only should do by listening and following the community's plan and direction.
Thank you. Randy.
That's a great question. I'm glad you came back to that, and I'm sorry for interrupting the flow of the evening, but I just continue to hear this, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to change that, and I'm going to get this done. And that's not the way our county government works. It's not the way our government works. You're not a mayor. You're not a city councilor. They make their own rules and regulations. The county doesn't make rules and regulations. The state makes our rules and regulations, and we take those and we move them into our communities, and we enforce them or share how they use those to manage what they want to do. And so my job is to go into those communities, listen to the people, listen to their concerns, find out what's a solution, what can we do to make a meaningful change that will address your need, as well as probably every other resident of this state that's not in a metropolitan area. And then I go back to my board and I have to convince 4 other people that that's an important change that has to be made. And if the board decides that's an important change that has to be made, then I have to go down to the legislature and I have to advocate with the County Supervisor Association to take that up and move that forward. And then we go out and we start lobbying all of our legislators throughout this state. And then, depending on what it is, I have to go to our congressmen and we have to go to a national level to get those supports, so that at the end of the day we can bring them back as a state, as a county, as a board of supervisors, and as me as a representative of the communities within my district, and provide that resource to them to make that change that they so desire. But it takes a team of people to get that done. I alone can't make those decisions. I alone don't wield that kind of power. My role is to be an advocate for the people in my community, the people in my county, and the people in my state, and that's what my job is.
Okay, thank you. Next. Current and future development in the Verde Valley and Yavapai County is most likely inevitable. Some residents are concerned about the current and future supplies of water and the health of our aquifers. What are your thoughts on this issue, and how are officials in the Verde Valley communities and Yavapai County kept abreast of local water issues and supplies?
So ADQ and ADWR does a great job of keeping us apprised of what we're doing. As I said earlier, and we've alluded to, most of the communities within the district that I serve are incorporated. They, for the most part, have water resource managers that work for them. They do their studies. Development is going to happen whether you like it or not. The gate isn't going to close. They're coming. So we have to figure out how to continue to provide growth. We have to figure out how to continue to provide that opportunity for people to move here. We have to provide resources and housing for the people who currently live here, and provide those services that we need. But we have to do it in a manner that doesn't overtax our resources. And our resources, not only water and our clean air and our open space, but it's our infrastructure that we use to get around this valley. So we have a ton of open space or developable land within our incorporated communities. We should be taking better charge of that. Development happens if we have the ability to put in a well to provide service for an area that needs to be developed, and then we can put in that shares that resource. It makes sure it's sustainable. It makes sure that it's managed, and we have conservation. Then we also can put in a sewer system that recaptures all that water, and we use it to put it back in the ground to help recharge the wells and the aquifers, so that we don't continue to pull more and more water out of the Verde River and affect all the other wells in the area that exist. So you have to be meaningful in how you develop land, but saying we're not going to develop it isn't going to happen, and saying we don't want to develop it in a manner that allows us to put in the resources, the infrastructure to provide conservation and recharge isn't also helpful for what we need to do moving forward to protect the resources that we currently have.
Thank you. Donna.
Okay, I want to make sure I understand the question.
Would you like me to ask it again?
Please, in this case.
I'd be happy to.
Thank you.
Current and future development in the Verde Valley and Yavapai County is most likely inevitable. Some residents are concerned about the current and future supplies of water and the health of our aquifers. Right. What are your thoughts on this issue, and how are officials in the Verde Valley communities and Yavapai County kept abreast of local water supplies?
Yeah, it's an excellent question, and it is the tip of the arrow. You know, who wouldn't want to live in our beautiful Verde Valley? But you do at some point have to ask the question, how much water does this actually hold in this glass? And at what point do you stop pouring? And no, I'm not suggesting that a single supervisor has authority over the state, but I am suggesting that a supervisor who listens to community and who forms partnerships and who is evidence-based driven on matters such as water can, with reasonable people across the state and locally certainly, come to some important decisions on how to proceed. And I go back to our planning documents because they should be really the books, the documents on which we rely for good decisions. Strategic plans as it relates to water usage, to answer your question directly, should be not only by community, but by region. And we need to be looking very seriously now, and it's late in coming, partnerships across the state to do exactly what I was mentioning earlier, which is to bring a voice to the legislature so that we can have legislation to protect our very precious resources in a way that will allow us to have the kind of growth that aligns with community plans and with our diminishing resources. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Donna, you're up next again. What is your vision for the Verde Valley and Yavapai County? How do you see the Verde Valley and Yavapai County growing and changing in the future? Ideally, what would it look like? Realistically, what do you anticipate? What is the most important change you would like to see?
Well, I'd like to see a re-engagement and a reinvigoration of trust in our public processes. And that happens by bringing diverse stakeholders together. I see a Verde Valley that's happening right now, Mary, increasingly becoming self-reliant. I see a Middle Verde area where 600 acres of prime riparian area can grow the produce that it's done so marvelously for decades now in such a way that people come up from the great state of Maricopa County and buy our goods with the claim, as Steve Ayers, Economic Development Director in Camp Verde, loves to say, and I love to repeat, Verde Valley grown, Verde Valley made. Instead of 25 million, for example, on a bridge, finding that same amount in other means for a cannery, for example, so that we can have workforce development, partner with educational entities such as Yavapai College, so certifications can be earned, so young families are attracted here, so we could have a thriving, growing, self-reliant Verde Valley. That's the kind of vision that residents throughout District 3 and frankly across the county are saying they want to see, and they want to see it now. And that's my commitment to help make happen.
Thank you. Randy, what is your vision for the Verde Valley and Yavapai County? How do you see the Verde Valley and Yavapai County growing and changing in the future? Ideally, what would that look like? Realistically, what do you anticipate? What is the most important change you would like to see?
So, you know, I grew up here, right? I've seen the change. I've lived the change. I drove what roads existed back then to learn how to drive. They were dirt. We had very few paved roads back then. I've watched how our areas have moved out into the rural areas. I remember driving back from Sedona and looking at the Verde Valley, the Cottonwood area and the Upper Verde with Clarkdale and Jerome, and being able to recognize packets of lights and patterns of lights and know kind of what they were. Now it's just become kind of a maze because we continue to spread out into those areas. And we will continue to use up those areas. But we have to figure out how to bring sustainable growth and sustainable industry into this valley that provides for the people who live here that don't want to be part of the tourist attraction industry. We've become dependent in the Verde Valley on tourism. We need to find other ways of sustaining ourselves, sustaining young families. We are currently, Yavapai County, we're the 3rd oldest county median age-wide in the state. By 2040, we will be the oldest median age county in the state of Arizona. So we have a older and aging population. The people that need to provide those services can't afford to live here. We have to figure out how to provide that housing, how to provide services, and how to provide opportunity for them not only to be here in a meaningful way, but to make sure that their families can continue to be here in a meaningful way. Viticulture is a great one. It's a way to bring outside money into this area. It provides a resource, it provides jobs, it's family, it's all about agriculture, and it's open space, and it allows us to utilize the resources we have and provide the jobs for the younger workers that aren't necessarily just coming here to retire.
Thank you. And we have come to the end of the questions that have been provided by the community. I want to thank the community for doing that. They've been marvelous questions, and the responses have been very thought-provoking, both from Randy and Donna. Thank you. And so we would like to move to closing statements now, and we do this in reverse order. So Donna, you will begin with the closing statement.
Well, first and foremost, thank you very much for the opportunity, Mary.
You're welcome.
To the League of Women Voters of the Greater Verde Valley area, what an extraordinary and important job in history you do and have. And again, I'm so grateful that because of many brave, wonderful women 100 years ago, we have the right to vote, and I have the right to run for this office, and I'm very grateful for that. If you haven't had a chance to go to donnaforddistrict3.com, I invite you to do so you can learn a little bit more about my governing philosophy and the work that I've been doing here for 30 years. It's clear that our communities are, of course, going to change. The important ingredient to that change is that we change in accordance with our vision for ourselves. I believe that our communities have the right to create their own sense of place. I think residents have the right to be listened to and advocated for. I believe that, except for the lack of will, we can do anything through partnerships and collaboration. I believe we have major challenges such as water and climate crisis and the changes that it's causing, COVID and the issues that it challenges us with. I also think we have extraordinary opportunities. I believe in the self-reliance of the Verde Valley. I love the idea of viticulture, which is a low water crop once it's established. And it's a $35 million a year industry. I can see adding another zero, but we have to have the will. Let's make it a $350 million, along with other rural legacy building, entrepreneurial, innovative, 21st century creations that you have in your heart, in your dreams, in your family. And I promise you that I will work to have those visions and dreams realized. Together we can do this. It's been done before, and we're ripe for growing in all of the ways that we want to grow, while still at the same time maintaining our rural legacy. Thank you.
Thank you, Donna. Randy.
Great, thank you very much, and I appreciate that you put this on for us. This is a great opportunity to get in front of the public, and I want to stress, go to my website, electrandygarrison.com. Look me up, look at what I've done, look at my commitment to this community and to the Verde Valley over decades of service. I also implore you to go and look at my opponent's website and look at what she's truly done that's been impactful to the community and to the people who live here and have lived here for a long time. So I really implore you to go do your own investigation. When I was elected 4 years ago, I heard the concerns. I heard what people said mattered to them. We went out in the communities. I spend, right now I'm putting in about 60-hour weeks. We spend most of our time outside the office in the communities. We go to the public. We don't ask the public to come to us. And we've gone out, we've listened to their concerns. One of their concerns was traffic. We've been instrumental and very successful on implementing traffic solutions, and those are done through partnerships. You can't do anything in this county, and this county does nothing without a partnership. And we've been very successful at that. We've partnered with the federal government, we've partnered with our communities, we've partnered with the cities, and we've actually been brought in over $30 million at this point of federal, state, and county money into the Verde Valley alone. And for a county that only has about a $9 million a year road budget, that's impactful, that's meaningful. Health was a concern. We've worked very hard on bringing more services to the health clinic that's here in the Verde Valley, as well as providing more resources for our health director, who manages all the other programs, WIC and Family Support Services and all those things that also go into our schools. As well as COVID has brought forward a whole new series of problems that we've had to deal with. Public safety is a huge concern of the Verde Valley and the residents in the valley, especially right now. And we've been instrumental on moving forward with providing solutions for the problems that plague our criminal justice and our court systems. So the new Criminal Justice Center in Prescott will be instrumental on not only providing better resources and better public safety outcomes for the communities, but also the people that use those services, the people that need those services, as well as the departments over there that have to provide that public safety. I've worked really hard to do this job. I think I've been extremely successful. I've not only gone out and listened to the community and to their concerns and what they want done, but we've gone out and actually created solutions and gotten work done. And I think the public should be very proud of what we've done. I've worked very hard, and if I've given them another 4 years, I plan to work very hard still. And so I really would appreciate your support, and please vote in November, and if you do, please vote for me. Thank you very much.
Well, I would like to thank you, Randy Garrison and Donna Michaels, for joining us and participating in this forum this evening. As Randy just mentioned, I would like to remind everyone that it is really important to vote in the general election on November 3rd, and to remind you that the last date to register to vote, to change your party registration, or update your address is October 5th. That is Monday. It's coming quickly. Early ballots will be mailed at the beginning of October 7th. If you are not registered, please go to www.servicearizona.com and be sure to sign up for the permanent early voting list to get your ballot in the mail. Thank you, everyone, and have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mary.
Thank you.